Welcome again, everyone, to Bubba's Palace. I know it's been a while since we've all got together. I believe it was last year when I put out the video for when we went on our 8-day trip with all the guys. Well, guess what, guys? I know I said I was going to put another one out pretty quick, but this is a lot of work for a guy that's just learning how to do it. So it takes a little bit of time, but we are going to beautiful Cedros next month in July. We're going up with Rosie's group at Cedros Sport Fishing. So what I wanted to do was just kind of put a little something together for people who are going up there and tell you it's a beautiful place up there. We're going to her new spot. They have another resort that they opened up there. So we're going to be, I think, the second or third group that's going to go through that spot. So, and Rosie is always so helpful. And I mean, they just run a good operation. And the thing I like about Cedros the best is I used to do these trips years ago where we had to drive into Ensenada, and then we would leave from Ensenada and fly out. But Rosie has it worked out now where we go through the CBX crossing. I'm not sure if you guys ever went through the CBX crossing, but it is so nice. You park on the United States side, you walk across the border through customs, and you're in the Tijuana airport, and you fly right out of the Tijuana airport, and you land right on the Cedros. So it's no longer we had 5-6 hours getting back across the border. When we're back across the border in 30 minutes. So if you guys could just sit back, relax. I got a few items I'm going to go over on this table here. Couple things you want to know about Cedros is that we pack everything in. So everything is according to weight. So we like to try to take, a certain amount of tackle, a certain amount of clothes, and we're going to go over all of that, what the weights are and things like that, and how you can do a buddy system. And you don't lose a lot of tackle, so you don't have to worry about too much of losing tackle. They do have a tackle shop, from what I understand now, that's actually at the on the island now. So we can actually get some new tackle if something runs out. So just stay tuned, and I'm going to be covering a bunch of items, and I try not to make it too long, and I don't want to get you guys too bored, but Bubba will be right back. Welcome back. Like I say, once again, welcome to Bubba's Palace. This is Brian Bubba Porter from United Composites, and we're preparing for a Cedros sport fishing adventure here in July. So what I wanted to do was kind of give you guys a little up-to-date on what we're going to take as far as the jigs, as far as the line, the bait, the hooks, the rod belts, the pliers, some scissors, assortment of lead heads, some powder coating because I like to paint some of my heads, so we'll do that. We have the Daiwa, the SP minnows, we'll be going over those, things like that. And the old wax wing from the old days, they still work down there in the Calicos. And then an assortment of swim baits from a 5-inch all the way up to the big slugs. Well, we fish the big slugs out there for the Calicos. So we'll be talking about doing all of that and fishing with all of these. And the giveaways that I give away to all my guys on the trip, we have an assortment of stuff that we're giving away, plus hats, shirts, different tackle that we're going to be giving them for the trip. And what I want to talk to you guys about today is I want to go over some of the rod selections that I will be taking down there. I usually go with 5 outfits. So I want to show you the 5 outfits I go out there with. And it pretty much covers everything that I want to do in Cedros, as far as the yellowtail, as far as the calico bass fishing. If we happen to go do some halibut fishing or some other type of white sea bass or things like that, with this arsenal of 5 rods, I'm able to do everything from dropper loop to trolling live bait, to yo-yo iron, surface iron, fishing the calicos with the SP minnows, as well as fishing the calicos with the heavier swim bait heads. Some of these swim bait heads we have are, an 1.5 ounces, 1.25 ounces. So we have an assortment of those. So what I want to do is we're going to start off with some of the gear that you want to have. So just personal gear that you want to have for your rods. One of the beautiful things about going to Cedros is we fly down on their own plane. So we don't use hard cases. We don't use hard rod cases. So what happens is everyone needs to make sure that your rods are in a rod stocking or sleeve, depending on what you want to call them. They have rod sticks, and you put your rods in these. And what you're going to do is you're going to bundle your rods together, and then they slide right down the seats inside the airplane. So by us being able to do that, I can take a 9-foot rod, I can take a 10-foot rod, and I don't have to worry about it, because everybody knows that when you travel with the fishing rod over 7.2, it becomes quite expensive to get the rod on the plane. But because we fly down in their own plane and we stack the rods like that, you can bring your 8-foot rods, your 9-foot rods, and I will have my 10E. I will definitely be throwing my surface iron with that. So one of the things you want to make sure is invest in some rod stockings or rod sleeves or rod sticks, whatever they want to cover. You want to make sure you have that. One of the other items you want to have for down there, not necessarily a black one, but you want to have some type of flop hat like this that can basically, this will keep the sun off you the whole time we're down there. So you want to make sure of that, because it can't get warm down there. So on your boat, you want to make sure this. I would say like a tan color one, anything that's a white color or bright. I wouldn't necessarily be having this dark one down there, because it's going to absorb the heat and it'll get hotter on you. But you want something like this that'll protect the sun off your neck. A good pair of shades. You'll want to have, definitely you want to have a good pair of shades. So you want to have those. I use the black flies. I like the Tahitian hooker ones. They cover my whole face on those, so I really like those. The other little things that you'll bring, I bring my pliers and my spike for my yellowtail, so they don't go all over the boat and beat me up on the boat. So I bring that. I bring my tighteners for when I tied a Tony Pinion knot, and I'm tired of the line cutting my hands. So I bring these so I can cinch that knot down really good. I can cinch it down. So you want to make sure that you have something like that. If you're tying the Tony Pinion knot, there's a whole lot of other knots out there that people tie, but I like tying the Tony Pinion knot. The other thing is a day belt, rod belt. To me, fishing on the Ponga, trying to keep my balance, it's nice to be able to have a place to rest my rod and put my rod in here as I'm fighting these big yellows. One of the things you guys got to realize, man, we're back there slow trolling these yellows and things like that. We're slow trolling yellows over some kelp, and if you can't get a handle on them pretty quick, they can get down inside there and cause a bunch of havoc. So one of the things you want to make sure is that I have a nice rod belt so I can sit and put it in there, and all I have to do is concentrate on fighting that fish and keep the bend in that rod. So these are just some of the items that, like I say, that you might want to add into your luggage when you take it down. Not necessarily you have to have it, it's up to you, but I would definitely say a hat to keep your head cool. Not a dark colored hat. This is my yellowtail hat, but that's for way down when it's cold and I can keep myself warm. So you'll see I have an assortment of jigs that we'll talk about and we'll get into about it. We'll talk about that. And we'll also fluorocarbon. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Cedros is not line shy. So when I go down to Cedros, I take 50, 60, and 80. I tie my 80 on my slow troll for my mackerel. When I'm slow trolling mackerel, I'm slow trolling with 80 or even 90. I'll even use the Jinkai 90 when I'm slow trolling. They're not line shy, and the thing that you have to understand is that when they bite, they're biting right over the top. The kelp stringers are like this. We're slow trolling, they're coming out and they're going back down in. So when you have that heavier line, you can pull them through that kelp. Now you can fish them with 40 if you want, but I don't. Why go out there and be stuck in the kelp when I can pull them right out of there with 80? So you'll see me slow trolling with 80 or 90. You'll see me yo-yoing with 60. At times I'll fish 60. And then you'll also see that when I'm throwing different baits in the kelp, I'll throw between 60 and 80 pound, a little short top shot on braid. I throw 80 pound braid with a short top shot. So that way what happens is I'm pulling through that kelp. I'll be able to cut some of that kelp and get those big, beautiful calicos that are out of there. They have some of the best calicos you'd ever want to catch there. So when I get them, I want to make sure I'm able to bring them to the boat. And you'll see some of the rods and the outfits that I have that's for calico fishing. You got to look at that and go, wow, those are a little bit heavy. Yeah, but when you need to get them out of the kelp and keep that head up, and as long as you keep them cranking and cranking and cranking, you can pull them through. It's unbelievable what you will actually fish these fish in Cedros and bonitas and things like that. I mean, they are absolutely buried in that kelp. So you got to be able to bring them out. And don't be scared to pitch in the kelp, because that's where they're at. So we're gonna make sure that once we get that bite, we're gonna be able to bring them out of there. So these are some of the items that we're gonna talk about. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off by talking about the jigs. Okay, we're gonna go over the jigs. Now, if you look over here, you'll see I have several different types of jigs, different sizes of jigs, different weights of jigs. Some jigs are light, some jigs are heavy. Although the jigs look heavy, they look big, but they're light. This is like my favorite surface iron jig are the Salis 7Xs. I absolutely love the Salis 7Xs. These things here, you can cast them a country mile. I don't have to worry about a whole bunch how they're swimming. They all swim pretty good right out of the factory. So a lot of that surface iron stuff that I'll be throwing for the yellowtail, and even for calicos. Don't be scared to throw the Salis 7Xs or the Tatty 45s or the Tatty Cs for the calicos, because the calicos will come out of the kelp and chase them. So don't be afraid to do that. So you'll see I have the 7X. I have the 6X. The 6X is heavy, so if there's a lot of current, this is one of my yo-yo jigs. If there's a lot of current and I need to get down there, I'll go to the 6X. If it's not a lot of current and I can get down with the 6X Junior, then that's what I'll have. I have the 6X Junior. So I definitely recommend bringing both the heavier one and the lighter one, just in case the current changes up. We'll be able to get down there and get bit. Now, these are all Salises. I like Salis jigs. I've been fishing them for a long time. So the same thing will work for a UFO 5, a UFO 6, or a Sumu 5, or a Sumu 6. They'll pretty much do the same thing when you want to go do yo-yoing and stuff like that. The one thing that I'm going to tell you guys, and you guys will see it, is that there's a whole bunch of different colors out on the market, right? You got all these different colors on the market as far as jigs. I'm going to tell you there's 3 colors I stick with, and you'll see. You'll see the blue and white. I always have blue and white. I have what they call the scrambled egg. Always have the scrambled egg color. And the Dorado color. These are 3 colors I'm telling you guys, and I've fished a little bit of everywhere, a little bit of here, a little bit of there. But when it all boils down to it, at the end of the day, those colors are going to get bit. The one color that's started to get pretty popular within the last 7 years has been this mint. This green color here, mint. This color here for the yellows has been really, really, really good, right? So when you look at my arsenal, you'll see that I'm pretty limited as far as color-wise. I don't have a whole bunch of colors that I take, because I have a lot of confidence in the 3 colors that I fish. And I've round them off with my mint, and with this baby, I'm good to go. So I'm good to go with those, right? Also, too, you have your Tatty 14s. If it's a little bit of windy out there and you got to get a little bit heavier surface iron out, the 14s work really well. So I'll throw the 14s. They're a little bit bigger in profile. They're a little bit bigger in profile than the Salis 7Xs. They'll cast out a little bit heavier in the wind and have a little bit more. But the 7Xs will work. If it gets a little too windy, you can throw the Tatty 14s. They all work. Guys throw the Tatty 45s. They work. They get bit too. All right. So when it comes to the jigs, everybody pretty much knows, your yo-yo, your jigs. You pretty much know that. You know your surface iron One thing that I am going to tell you guys when it comes to throwing the surface iron. Back in the day, I used to throw a real short top shot of mono. When it comes to jigs, when it comes to throwing the jigs and things like that, one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is that I used to throw nothing but braid with a real short top shot. I mean, probably a 3-foot top shot with 60 pound, right, on my surface irons. That's fine and dandy, but a lot of times, and I'm just going to tell you and be honest with you, a lot of times I spend a lot of times picking out a backlash, you know, because I get a little tangled in there, right? Especially when it's windy. That braid wraps around pretty quick. So what I've done now is I put enough on to get the cast out. So what I'll do is I'll put a little bit longer top shot on there. So that way when I make that cast, I'm casted down to the braid and I'm not dealing with the braid. When I wind it back up, I'm all with fluorocarbon. So that's one of the things that's helped me out. That's one of the things that made it a lot easier for me to cast on the surface iron. But on the yo-yo, I still have a 4-foot leader, and the rest is all braid. And I get it down and I'm pulling it up pretty good. That's on the yo-yo. But on the surface iron, throwing my E9 and my E10, I just was a lot easier to go back and fill it up with fluorocarbon, you know, to make sure I'm casting the fluorocarbon out and then winding it back. And it made it a lot simpler for me. Other guys can just keep throwing the braid, but when I got a backlash and the fish were out there boiling around and going crazy, and I'm sitting here trying to pull this backlash out, man, I'm going crazy. It could probably was a simple backlash, but you're so excited because you really want to get back out there and try it again. So I just learned that if I top shot it off with fluorocarbon, it's a heck of a lot easier for me. There's other guys that do other things, right? It's always somebody that fishes different. One of the questions guys ask me all the time is like on these different type of like coach sniper baits and things like that. When you go down there, hey, do you take those? To be perfectly honest with you, I really don't. I mean, I don't need to. I'm pretty sure they'll get bit. But when I know that I can get bit on my Salises, 6X Junior, 6Xs, the 7Xs, I'd rather take the weight in the room with these types of jigs versus using the coach snipers and things like that, or flat falls. You know, guys can take those, but I'd rather use my weight up with the Salises and the Tatty 45s and things like that, because I know for sure those get bit down there. So that's one of the things that people ask all the time, right? So you have to fish what you have confidence in. Whatever it is that you have confidence in, fish it. If you have more confidence in the coach sniper types bait, the mega bass baits, then take those. If you have confidence like I do in, you know, the UFOs, the Sumus, the Salas 6X, the 6X Juniors, you know, things like that, then take those. But just remember, we're limited to the amount of weight that we take, right? So and I'll show you the rods and things that we're going to go, the setups are going to go on the jigs. The other thing like I talked to you guys about was the fly lining, or sometimes they slow troll the live mackerel. We'll get in there in the morning and you'll see bait catchers. We'll go right in the harbor in the morning, we'll make bait. I usually take 2 sizes depending on what size the bait is and what they want to bite. I usually get a size 2 and a size 6. And I don't get very expensive ones because I don't plan on bringing them back. I'll either leave them with my Ponga guy, I'm not bringing them back. So these were here, these were Andes, and they're like $2 a piece, right? The main thing that you want to make sure on here is that when it says the main line on here, you want the main line to be at least 30-pound tests on the main line. Just in case we start getting it a little bit bigger mackerel, you don't want to be breaking them off, right? I use a size 4 or 6 sinker. And the reason I do that is so I can control that fish. You can go down with a lighter sinker, but the problem is when the mackerel get on there, they're all over the place. And when you go to bring them up to get them off, they kind of get in the way and kind of get tangled up. The heavier sinkers that keep them straight in front of you, so when you raise your rod tip up, you can grab that sinker, walk over, you have control, you know, of your mackerel, put them in the live well, and we can move on. So you definitely got to have a couple of bait catchers. And like I say, I recommend having a size 2 and a size 6, because it all depends on what how big the mackerel are that you're making. The other thing is, when we talk about slow trolling these mackerel, in a fishery like down there, you really don't have to use a lot of designer hooks. You don't have to use a lot of expensive hooks. This is when I break out my stuff like my eagle claw hooks. You know, my eagle claw hooks, I break these things out. I mean, they're great for the mackerel down there. Some Hayabusas, you know, some other inexpensive hooks, but they're solid hooks, and I can put 80 pound on these hooks, and these hooks are, you know, a work. The other one that we started to go up a little bit, you know, is you start to get into, you know, you get into the mustat. I love the hoodlums, the 4X hoodlums and the J hook. Oops. I love this hook. It's a nice strong hook. It's a great mackerel hook, and it's a ring hook, right? Do I really need to have a ring hook down at Cedros? No, but I have these, so I'll be bringing those, right? The other hook is the Demon. It's like their circle hook. Now, the one thing about a circle hook in fishing mackerels are you're going to spend more time trying to get the hook in the mackerel. That means you're going to be holding that mackerel a lot longer than you normally do, because the circle hooks, until you get used to how they go in and out, it takes a little bit. I much prefer fishing the J hook type hooks when I'm fishing live mackerel. It's just easier to grab them, hook them, nose them, in the water they go, and I'm done in a couple seconds. So I have anywhere from, because depending on the size of the bait when we get there, I have anywhere from a 3/0 up to a 6/0 hook. I'm pretty much not going to fish a mackerel pretty much smaller than a 3/0. So I have, if we have some smaller bait, for whatever reason we get smaller bait there, I'll have the 3/0s, and I'll have from 3 to 6. I don't think I need to have a 7/0, but usually a 6 will get away for what I want to do with it. So we're gonna have those. So I would say, you know, go through your tackle box, kind of rate, you know, maybe you got some Father Day hooks that somebody gave you and go, man, I'm really, these ain't gonna pull no 200-pound tuna, but they'll pull up a yellowtail, right? So you can do that, or you can quite naturally, you can go out and buy the hoodlums, you can go out and fish the owners or fish whatever you're comfortable with. But I have a ton of these eagle claw hooks. There's nice strong bronze hooks, and I'm pretty much gonna open everybody up to let them use those. They'll be fine hooks for everybody down there, so I'll have those for everybody to use. The other thing that you're gonna have down there, once we make the mackerel and we get everything out and we slow trolling, you know, you want to have an outfit that's an 80-pound outfit to slow troll. You want an 80-pound outfit when you slow troll. And we'll talk about what outfit that's going to match, you know, the hook, the line, you know, for slow trolling those mackerel. You don't want to go out there and be undergunned. And like I said once before, true, yeah, you can go out there and you can fish 40, 30-pound tests. Sure you can. You'll get bit. But how long do you want to be on the fish, for one? And two is, it's going to be really luck if you can get that fish out of the kelp on 30 or 40-pound tests. I can't say that it can't be done. I'm just saying that why go out there and work that hard? But after you get a few of them and you feel comfortable, if you want to dry up that lighter line, then knock yourself out, right? Okay, so now we've talked about the jigs, catching the yellowtail, the surface iron, the yo-yo, everybody knows. The other way would be is to go ahead and slow troll the mackerel. We all talked about that, so we're all in agreement there. One of the other ways is these Odysseys. Now, these are like the Shimano Orcas at a third of the price. They're pretty heavy. They cast out pretty good. I haven't caught anything on them yet. But Alex at the Rusty Hook said that the yellowtail on his trip, he said they were just eating them up pretty good. And they were down at the ridge when that happened. So I got 3 of them. So I'm going to throw them out and see what they do. And hopefully it'll be fun, you know, because they're going to be right at the surface. And I love, you know, being able to see my bite. So I got a couple of those that I'm gonna take out with us and see what they do. Okay, now we've been talking all of this about the yellowtail, and the yellowtail is fine, and I trust me, I enjoy catching yellowtail. But now we're gonna go something that's far and dear to my heart, and I love the calico bass fishing there. When you can have, when the weather's right, the wind is good, and the current and everything is going good, the calico bass fishing is just phenomenal at Cedros. I mean, that's the whole thing when I fly down there. I'm just looking at that weather window and thinking, man, come on, just give me a couple days where we can go bang on these calicos. I mean, I love catching them, right? So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is we're going to talk about some of the different heads that we have. You'll see up here, I have everything from fishing. One of my favorites is the Slug MC swim baits by Corey. I mean, it's unbelievable what this little thing will do on there. One of the things that you want to make sure is that anytime you're fishing in that kelp and you're fishing for these calicos, the yellowtail come flying through the kelp also. So you need to make sure that you have, heavy enough line to stop a yellowtail. You have to make sure that the reels that you're using or stop the yellowtail, have enough drag capacity. I fish a lot of the Alexa 400s, the high speeds. I absolutely love that reel. The reel has enough drag. I fish it with 65-pound braid, with a 60 or 80-pound top shot. And I'm telling you, a lot of times I'm swimming back. I'm swimming one of Corey's baits back through the kelp, and I'm looking for a calico, and whop, a big old yellow, man, 35, 40-pound yellow hits it. And I'm on that Alexa 400, and that Alexa 400 doesn't even bat an eye. She brings it right to the boat. So I'm just telling you guys, one of the things you want to make sure when we start fishing for these calicos is that you be prepared, because any bite could be a big old yellow. They swim right in the kelp. Could be a sea bass. They swim in the kelp. We've got them on all of that. What I want to talk to you guys about are the different types of jig heads. You guys are probably more, traditional. You'll notice that the shanks on these jigs, on these swim bait heads, some of them are long, some of them are short, right? Well, quite naturally, I match them to the baits. When I'm throwing my 5-inch baits, I have the shorter one. So you have different size lead heads. You have some with traditionally they have the short shank on them, like these. See how short the shank is? These are for your 5-inch baits. These are for the baits that are going to be like that, right? If you don't need to put a long one on here on a 5-inch, it's way back too far for me, right? When these calicos hit, they hit the head. So I want to make sure that they're there, right? So on your longer baits, the 7-inch baits, that's where I'll go with these, with the longer shank on those, right? You'll notice that the heads are all different sizes, because depending on the current, it'll depend on what size head that you'll have. If there's a lot of current, you're going to have to go to a heavier head. If there's not as much current, then you're going to go to a lighter head. Typically, I don't fish anything less than a 3/4 there, because even when there's no current, I still want to get it down through the kelp. So I'll fish a 5-inch bait. The smallest I'll fish it is a 3/4 ounce head, and then so I can get down in the pockets on a slow fall when there's no current. And I'll fish all the way up to the 1.5 ounces. I'll fish the big ones to get down there if the current is ripping. If you get around the back side of the island, depending on how you look at it, but you get around the back side, sometimes on those boilers and stuff out there, that current could be ripping. I mean, it could be ripping pretty good. And a lot of times those fish are staged right outside those breakers. If I can't get my bait down to them as they're in the ambush spot to come up to get it, right, I'm going over the top, I'm not going to have as much success catching the bigger ones. The bigger ones are going to be down there right outside that current, washing for things to get, waiting for things to get washed in so they can shoot out from that ambush spot, hit it, get back in there with minimum effort, right? So when you're fishing the broilers or the breakers and things out there, the rocks and all of that, the edge of the kelp, you always got to remember it's an ambush spot. I want to be able to get down in there so he can get my bait and I can get to the bigger ones. I don't want my bait where it's too light and it's blowing over the top of them. I want to get down and swim it to them. So they're sitting there waiting, we can get it. As you notice that, you'll see a lot of my baits don't have weed guards. Guys always ask me, well, is it better to have a weed guard or not to have a weed guard? This is a weed guard, right? So this will help you get through the kelp. This will help you get through some of the rocks. It'll help you get through that kind of stuff. I'm either or. It doesn't make, if I have weed guards, I'll throw weed guards. If I don't, I'll throw it without. You know, my thing is when I throw, to be honest with you guys, for calicos, when I throw into the weeds, I expect one or two things to happen. I expect to get a big calico out or me to get hung up and I got to start pulling kelp out, right? That's what I'm expecting. If I throw my bait out and I'm able to swim it back, that's to me as a bonus. If I can bring it back and it didn't get hung up, I am throwing in some of the thickest of the thickest. I mean, I want to get the big ones out of there. I will pitch, I will flip, and I will swim through all of that kelp just so I can try to get one of the big ones out. I'm not really too worried about if I get my tackle back or not. If you fish what we call fish nervous and you're worried about getting the tackle out, Calico at Cedros can be a little difficult for you. Although there are some places that we fish where the rocks and the ledges and stuff are, where you don't have to deal with as much current, as much kelp. So you're able to fish those a little bit, right? So the other one, these are by Lead Masters, and these have the weed guards on them. And I tell you guys, all these hooks are pretty sharp. I don't say that we have to go out and spend $1 million on some hooks. I'm not, because like I say, I'm throwing them with the intention of, ooh, that thing is really on there. They don't want you to get that out. I'm throwing them with the intention of, maybe not getting them back, right? Leadmaster really had those wrapped in there. I guess they don't want nobody taking those. Must be worth some money. But yeah, but one of the things I want to show you real quick, see how this weed guard is a little long. I would cut mine. I would trim the edges of it so it goes right at the end of the tip. So I cut it at a little bit of an angle down there, let it go down so when it pushes down there, it doesn't interfere with me setting a hook on the fish. But yeah, but these right here, and you notice the difference. These have a keeper to hold your bait. And that's important too, because a lot of times when you're fishing the bigger baits, a lot of times you'll actually have a calico on the head and a calico holding it by the tail, right? So if you happen to have one that's just simply holding it by the tail, a lot of times we call pants you. They can pull your bait off. But with the nice keepers on there, that bait's on there and it's not going anywhere. The other trick is, guys, they actually, they glue them on. They glue them, put a little dab of crazy glue on or Mended or a bunch of different other types of glues that they have. They put them on there and they glue the bodies on. So when they get that short bite, right, when they get the short bite, it doesn't pull it and wear the hole in the bait where it keeps sliding every time you cast it. Everybody knows when you cast it, that bait goes halfway back off again, because you worn out the back part of the bait, so you worn it out. So what happens is your bait comes back and it's funky like this. Right? When you need it to be swimming like that. So you want to make sure that you have some type of bait keeper to hold it up there. And that's what Leadmasters has. They have their keeper there. These right here, these were the original Big Hammer heads back in the day, a long time ago. I have a bunch of these. So they don't have weed guards, but I really don't care because if I lose them, I got boxes of them. So I don't mind, throwing them. We use them all the time. So those are the difference in the weed guards when you're out there calico fishing. The most important thing to me is to make sure that you have 3/4 to 1.5 ounces heads, depending on the current. Make sure you have those. And a lot of times what will end up happening is if you start to get a lot of short bites on the bigger baits, where you start to get like the tails and stuff are bitten off, go to the 5-inch bait. go to the 5-inch bait. Don't waste your baits if they start short biting, because sometimes they'll do that. Just go to the 5-inch bait and save the 7-inch baits for when the big fish want to bite, the bigger fish want to bite. You'll see when it comes into my swim baits, there's a few colors that I have all the time. And for me, working down there and fishing down there, I like a lot of the reds. I like the one they call Christmas tree, and we call this electric chicken. And anything that has a blue belly, I mean an orange belly to me, works pretty good down there. I like throwing those. Not saying that the other ones won't work. I'm just saying that when I'm fishing down there, those are the colors that I like to throw. I like to throw those. My favorite color in the slug is this one. This is absolutely my favorite color. One of the things you want to understand when you fish these slugs, this is a big hunk of plastic. It is a big piece of plastic. You need to fish this with like an 8-aught or 9-aught twist lock beast hook by owner. That's what you want to fish with. This, you want to fish that. This is a big hook. Look at that hook, right? And the reason for that is because it has a lot of plastic that it has to go through. We use the twist locks that twist into the bait, and it has a lot of plastic. And what happens is when you get bit with this big gap in there, it's pushed down enough to where you have this much hook in the fish. If you have too small a hook, what'll happen is you get bit, it'll just bury it into the plastic. If the belly can't go down, say the belly can't go down, and you get bit, look at that. You have zero hook set. So you want to have these beast hooks, so when they get bit, look at all that hook you got. That's enough hook to get in them, to hook them, right? So you want to make sure. They have they have weighted ones where they're weighted. So if the current is ripping and you want to get your swim bait down, they have the beast hooks with the weights on them, the belly weights, you know. So you might want to get a few of those, depending on the size baits that you're fishing. The next color that I like in the slugs are this, right here. This is another color I like. So there's a couple, Corey at MC Baits. Corey goes down there all the time, and you can always call him and say, hey, Corey, I'm going to Cedros. What's the hottest bait? And he'll be able to tell you, because he fishes it a lot. He's been down there, and all his plastics have been proven down there. I like his swim baits here. They're a little bit harder plastic. They're a little bit more rugged, so you can catch more than one fish on them, you know, so they work out pretty good. The other way is that we've been getting them down there quite naturally. Everybody knows the wax wing. This is the old wax wing, right? This thing is old, and I tell you what, man, the first time I threw this thing, I'm thinking, what the heck is this, right? But I saw guys catching fish with it, and hey, it don't take me long. If somebody's catching fish, I'm going to throw it and start trying it. So I did, and the wax wing works good. The other way is there's this SP Minnow, this Daiwa SP Minnow. There's a floating version and a sinking version. There's time for each one of them, right? When there's not a whole lot of current, then I'll throw the sinking one. I'll let it get down there and sink a little bit. Then I'll start popping it back to the boat, right? If the current is going pretty good and the fish are up on top and they're busting, I'll throw the floating one. It'll be right up there where they're busting on the sardines or busting on the mackerel, whatever they're busting on. So I'll keep this in the bite zone a lot longer by doing that. And I throw these on 65-pound braid with a 60 or 80-pound top shot. So, like I say, fishing in the kelp is no joke. I just want to get one of these out so you guys can see them. Fishing in the kelp is no joke, so I don't have a problem fishing heavy in the kelp at all. So I will definitely. But these are like for all you bass fishermen back in the days, this is like a giant jerk bait. This is the SP Minnow, right, by Daiwa. One of the things that's good about this, if a lot of you guys that's in the freshwater world say, man, that's probably one of the biggest jerk baits you'll ever see, right? I don't know, man. Nowadays in the freshwater, we're throwing baits bigger than this. So I guess you probably could throw this in freshwater. But the calicos eat it. This is one of the baits that you'll see in some of the videos where you see a calico on this side and a calico on that side. This thing has probably caught more double hit hookups than any other bait that's down there that I know of, right? So I'm throwing this on a 65-pound braid with a 60-pound fluorocarbon top shot or an 80-pound. Whatever I have at the time when I'm tying it up, that's what I'll use, right? There is a sinking one and there's a floating one. If the fish are up on top and they're crashing on bait, I'm throwing the floating. If the fish are not on top, then I'm going to throw the sinking one, let it sink down, and I'm going to swim it, pop it back through the kelp, and I'm going to, see if I can trigger a bite like that. This is a lot of fun to catch the calicos on when they go. This is the SP Minnow, and I have it in the macro color. That's probably one of the famous ones I like to use is the macro color one, because a lot of times the calicos will eat those small mackerel out there. So this is just another, thing that you can do to try to catch those calicos, man. I mean, it's just, to me, like I say, mackerel, huh? You think I got a couple mackerel ones? Yeah, I got a few mackerels. It's just one of those things that you can have a lot of fun with. When the fish want to go out and the fish want to bite, it's a really good way to catch them. The other thing that I do is, like on our trips, I like to give guys, I give them the hats, I give them the shirts, I give them the patches, for United Composites. Then I like to give them stuff that's pertaining to the trip that we're going on, right? So everybody on our trip, they got a UC Composite shirt, they got a UC Composite hat, they have a Cedros sport fishing shirt, they got one of those, plus we gave them 60-pound Seaguar Blue Label. They all got that. Gave them bait catchers because we don't want no excuse why you're not making bait. So we gave them some bait catchers, both sizes. They have both sizes of them in there. They have, these are trocars. These are trocars with the equivalent to the beast hooks. These are for your big plastics, right? And we're going to try a new bait out there for Reaction Innovations. We're going to try this. So that's why we have the trocar hooks. Same situation, right? We use a lot of these in freshwater. They're called skinny dippers. But this is the big dipper by Reaction Innovation. So we're going to try those with the trocar. So we gave everybody those. There's quite a few of those in there that you're going to have. Another MC bait. And then an MC slug. So there, we're just giving you guys that, for the guys who come out on a trip with us, we always like to try to give you guys a little something to show you our appreciation for you guys coming and hanging out with Bubba. And Bubba always tries to give you, things that's going to be pertaining to the trip. I'm not going to come out and you guys are going to come out and I'm going to give you guys for trout fishing, right? We're going after the calicos, we're going after the yellowtail, we're going after those types of fish, so I want to make sure that you guys have what you need. Also, we gave away face shields for everybody for the heat that's out there to make sure that they're going to be good and nice and comfortable. One of the things I like about it, Cedros, man, is that you have control of your boat. So if you decide that it's time and you guys have caught enough fish and you guys have worn out and you're ready to get back to camp, the girls always have fresh ceviche when you get back. You get back up there, you sit up on the cliff, up on the bluff up there, you watch the sun go down, you pop a cold beer, have a beautiful dinner, you talk about what took place today, and everybody's all excited about tomorrow, man. I tell you, it is a wonderful, wonderful place to go. Rosie and her team, they make every effort to make you as comfortable as possible to get you what you need. The thing I like about Cedros the best is, once I get off the plane, I don't have to touch my gear anymore. They take all my gear, they set it outside my room. When I get off the boat, I grab my backpack and I get off. They take all the gear off the boat, they bring it back, they wash it down for you. You can set it by your room, you can tie up if you want to tie up for the next day. You leave it out. And then in the morning you wake up, you have your breakfast, you load in the van, you go down to the boat, your gear is all on the boat, It's all ready to go. It's just a easy trip. And the people are just so happy. And I mean, it's just a great all-around trip. I really enjoy going down to Cedros. Everybody is just as wonderful as possible. So I'm hoping that in the future that some of you guys that want to come down, I want you to come on down and enjoy, our trip down there. And, you can only take 12 at a time, but that doesn't mean I can't go a couple times, right? If I have enough people, I'll go back again. Because like I say, I don't have a problem with going back. So what we're going to do now is that we talked about all the different types of baits and things like that, and the hooks and all of that. So what I want to get you guys to do now is I'm going to show you the 5 outfits that Bubba uses when he goes down to Cedros. And it kind of encompasses everything that we've talked about on the table here. It'll have all the baits for throwing the slugs, for throwing the SP minnows, for throwing all the cast iron jigs here, all the different jigs and things like that. And of course, naturally the hooks, and then the Odysseys. I'll show you all the different rods that we're going to use. I can throw everything on this table with the 5 rods that I picked. So now what I want to do is give you guys a little bit of break to stretch, and then I'm going to get my rods together and bring them back out to the table, and I'm going to go over each one of them for you. Alrighty, so now like I said, I know I told you guys 5 outfits. This is more than 5. What I'm going to do is just going to show you different variations of it, because some of them are 10-foot rod, some of them are 9-foot rod. It's your choice to take whichever one you want. But I'm going to walk through each one, and I'm going to start off from yo-yoing and going straight into surface iron, and then end up at slow trolling for the Mackies. Okay, this is United Composites, and this is one of our top of the line rods right here, which is the RGP. It's the RGP 80 Predator, and it is 50 to 100 pound. And I'm going to tell you, matched up, when you match that up with the AVETs, and this is a JX 6-3 2-speed, and this is one of the ways that I like to yo-yo on the heavier stuff. When I'm going with the Sumu 6s, if there's a lot of current, I'll fish this rod. It's a little bit heavier rod. I like fishing this rod, and you'll see that 6-to-1 gear ratio on here works really well. And then, quite naturally, it's a 2-speed. The old man cheater, put it in gear. This is 65-pound braid iser, 65-pound iser, and it's tied on to 60-pound fluorocarbon. So that's my heavy yo-yo. When I'm going to do a heavy yo-yo, I'll go that route. The other way that you want to go is on the narrow, like I was talking about earlier. This is the Terminator. The Terminator, this is the 80. This is my 30 to 80 pound outfit, right? So on that, I'll fish like the Salises, the 6X Juniors. I got a 6X on that, but I'll fish a 6X Junior, the lighter one on these. I'll fish both, the 6 and the Junior on these, and it works out good. This is the HXJ. I use this as a narrow, got a little bit of room in there. And this is also one of the rods I use when I do wahoo fishing. Okay, so now this is one of my favorite rods, guys. This is the RGP 900, this is the 9E, right? This rod here is unbelievable. When it loads up, it's a 9-foot rod. When it loads up and throws this 7X, it throws it a country mile. And the thing I like about this that I just absolutely adore is it has a nice tip. It loads the tip up. It casts very well. And when it comes to putting the load on the fish, this rod sheds down and puts it to them. So this is one, if I want to throw a 9-foot rod, that's my 9-foot rod, right? Now guys are sitting there going, well, man, you said you was only going to talk about 5 rods, and we see like 7 rods here, 8 rods here. I'm just giving you the different options, right, that you can fish. This is the Del Mar 30 to 60. This is a 10-foot rod. For those of you guys who are daring and want to go out and get that extra footage by casting a 10-foot rod, this is unbelievable what this Del Mar do. I remember when Randy first gave this to me, and he goes, hey, Bubba, you gotta go out and test this rod. I'm like, dude, I grabbed this rod and I says, I don't know about this, Randy. He says, trust me, you're going to like this rod. I came back and I got 2 more from him. Unbelievable, the amount of power that they have. And I have that rod is, oops, good thing I know the manufacturer. That rod's hooked up with an LX, another AVET. If you see, I throw a lot of AVETs because AVETs have been really good to me. And I never had really any issues with them. And here's the jewel. This is my RGP 1000, the 10E, 30 to 60. If you can look at the color in this, that is unbelievable. This like red cherry wood in there. It's got Bubba on it. Randy made that for me. And 310 Rod Works. Darren over there wrapped it for me. He did a great job of wrapping it. My wife looked at this and she says, I want all your rods to look like this. I said, honey, just break out the checkbook and I'll make them look like whatever you want. Okay. Now, this is another series of the United Composites that I like. I use these rods all the time. It's the RCP. This is the 70XH. This is what you'll see me dropper looping with. That's why I got it tied up for a dropper loop. You'll see me that. I have the old AVET, the Pro X3, the 30s on them, the 2 speeds. They're great for reeling, for stuff like that. They work really well. So the Pro X, the 30s, these reels I don't think AVET makes anymore, but I've had these reels for so long, I've never had any problem with them. For down at Cedros, fishing in the pongas and getting banged up, this is a great rod for that, a great reel for that. So this is what I use for dropper loop. And then I have another one, which is the same rod, which is the 70XH. And I have that set up with a 30 also. And I have that set up. To slow troll the mackerels. You see that? This is 90 pound. This is 90 pound to a hoodlum 6 ring hook. And this is 100 pound braid. So I don't mess around, guys. You know, when I hook a fish, I want to be able to bring him in. So those are that. So what I'll end up doing is, this is what I talked to you guys about. With the heavier heads, I go to this is our 711XH. This is a heavy Calico rod that I use for throwing the bigger swim baits with. It has no problem when it loads up. You see that rod? Look how the rod shuts off. That rod really shuts off. Can you get that on there? Look at that. That's what's pulling me through the kelp right there. That rod is unbelievable how it shuts off. I'm able to stop that Calico, turn his head, and get him coming to the boat. If I happen to be out there swimming this bait by, and with this Lexer 400, and this is, I think this is 80 pound on here, 80 or 65. Last year, I had about a 41 pound yellowtail get this in the kelp. And I knew it was a yellowtail because right away he took off. Zoom. I said, oh yeah. I said, I hope I don't run out of line. I had enough line capacity to slow the fish down, put the brakes on him, and bring him in. So that's one of the beauties about using a Lexer 400. You could go into some of the smaller bass reels, but the problem will happen is if you mess around and hook one of those big yellows, you're going to be in trouble. The other outfit I have is another Lexer 400. Got another Lexer 400. This was made by 310 Rod Works. Darren took me a monster and he wrapped it for me, custom wrapped, beautiful rod. I love throwing the jerk bait with this, and the reason why it's a little bit shorter because I can pop it. You know, if I have too long a rod, when I go to pop it, I'm already in the water. But on the ponga, stand up on the bench, this is the right height for me to pop my SP Mental, the pop it to make it dark through the water, So this is really good to do. It's a little bit heavier than normal, but it'll work for me. And that's by Darren, by 310 Rod Works, right? So what ends up happening is, for me, when I told you guys 5 rods, I'm going to show you my 5 rods that I would take. I'm just going to start eliminating the rods, and you'll say, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to eliminate that one. I'm going to put those over here out of sight for a minute. Okay, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 more to go. Whoop-oo! Okay, let's go here. I am going to take, woo-wee. And I'm going to take, probably going to take that one. Which is okay because Dave is going with me, so he'll have them. And then I'm going to keep my 2 bass rods because they're too specific. So, okay. So maybe I told a story. Maybe you're going to need 6 rods when you go to Cedros. Maybe you're going to need 6 rods. I can do everything I need to do right there with these 6 rods. That's it. If I had to narrow it down to really 5, then I would probably not use the 10-footer and get beat up all the time. I would probably go to the 9. I would probably go to the 9-footer because I won't get worn out as fast with the 9. So there you have it. That is my 5 rods for fishing Cedros. So let's recap on what they are. This is my RCP 70 HP XH. That's my heavy. That's for, again, slow trolling my mackerel, and dropper looping if I need to do that, right? The next one is going to be my RGP 80 Predator. That's 50 to 100. The reason I didn't use the Terminator is because I can fish the heavier, the sumus, the 6s, and the 6Xs with this. And I can also drop down and I can fish the juniors. So that's why I said, okay, I can fish the heavy and I can fish the lighter one. Quite naturally, my 2 bass rods. And then my beautiful, 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 beautiful surface iron rod. The RGP 900. This is the E9, and I'm just telling you guys, when it comes to it, this rod here will load it up every time, and it will definitely handle it. So there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bubba's 5 choices. That's what I have to have. Look, I had to have my glasses on so I can make sure I'm reading all the right numbers right. So this is my setup for Cedros. In the comments, anything like that, you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll see if I can answer them for you. But this is what I would take to Cedros with me. And I would feel really comfortable and confident that I could stop whatever I hood out there in this. And so to the next time that Bubba can get out, let me get past my rod, my gel rods. Until the next time, guys, I want everybody to go out, have fun, enjoy this beautiful, beautiful ocean that we go out and fish on, respect it, respect each other, catch as many fish as you can want to eat, release the rest, take pictures, have a great time. And remember, we have generation after generation after generation that wants to be able to enjoy this fishery. So let's allow them to do that and be real, real conscious of the people behind you. Till next time, guys, have a good one.